But I got the inspiration from a tuning from a guy that was at the Canadian Guitar Festival, and the percussive thing was actually John Gomm's influence, teaching percussive thing at the Canadian Guitar Festival. So this is something I'm just working on, trying to go outside my comfort zone a little bit. But it's like. So something like that is just kind of what I got put together right now. I just started writing it actually last night.
Well, either way, it's really impressive.
I got home a little bit early from work to work on stuff, and I just started working on that, and I pretty much came up with that whole thing last night, messing around for about an hour or two. So yeah, it's kind of outside my element. The percussive thing, I don't really do. It's not a whole bunch of my style.
Do you know what the style of playing is called, or that style?
It's still fingerstyle. It's still fingerstyle. It's part of fingerstyle. It's just some guys do more of a percussive thing, like a John Gomm. Some guys do a harmonics thing, which is like if I were doing one-handed. There's a slap style like that where guys do a lot of that. So there's a lot of different styles, which is what I mean. Like the guys that I was playing with at the competition had all these different styles. The tuning I'm playing in right now, I learned from a guy that actually finished like 4th or 5th place. I never did tell him.
Wow.
And then the percussive thing was a workshop that John Gomm did, where he was just teaching you and telling you all about his style, how he turns like his body into a bass guitar, and he's got a snare here, and these are toms here, and so he does. And then you have your hi-hats pretty much. So it's really, really cool. So I just kind of was messing around, trying to strengthen my fingers a little bit, doing one-handed hammer-ons and pull-offs. And I was like, I think I can add something in there, but it's not my style, so it's a huge learning curve for me. So I eventually got to where my hands are working together.
You get that groove, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the, I know that normally the standard tuning for a guitar is what, EADGB?
EADGBE.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So how is that? What's the different tuning on that?
The open tuning for this is.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's
it's really
cool.
Crazy. And what was really cool is the guy who taught me, Chris is his name. It's a style that the tuning. I don't know if he found it or whatnot, but I never heard it, and it's really unique. The tuning is C sharp, G sharp, C sharp, G sharp, B, D sharp. Yeah.
Try to wrap your head around that.
It sounds really uplifting with the bass notes, but then like a minor to the high notes, which is really different. It's really unique, and that's kind of why I started messing around. started with that. You know, and I was like, oh, it's like, it's kind of got almost like an Irish feel to it, but it's minor, but it's not so dark, like because the bass notes kind of keep it uplifting.
It has a slight sadness to it, while at the same time having that
so,
uplifting
It's not
upper
so
end.
overdriven where you're like, it's really melancholy, you know. And I was like, this is really cool. And I always love to throw capos around on stuff just because it kind of brings it even more outside the norm.
What's the capo?
This right
Oh,
here.
that. Oh, okay, yeah.
And basically that just takes...
Shows you how much I know about guitar.
No, it's fine. It basically just takes where you're at in key, and it just adds octaves pretty much. So and I just started messing around. I just started doing this, you know. Then it's...
And that was just an exercise to strengthen up your fingers too.
And we started off that way. And what I started doing was actually I was going. Kind of something I wrote, and I was like, but it's not, I'm not good at it. I don't know. I use really heavy strings, which guitarists use a lot of light strings in the acoustic, but I tune so much that I like to have
you don't want them to break if you're abusing them.
All the time. I think if I used a lighter, really light, so I use one of the heaviest gauges I have. In doing that, your fingers have to be a little bit stronger. You know, you have to get a little used to it. So doing one-handed hammer-ons and pull-offs, I mean, you're trying to make a note by just hitting it. You know, and that's what's really hard. So you really have to strengthen. It's hard to say because actually John Gom said this to me. You don't really have muscles in your fingers, so you can't strengthen the muscles in your fingers. You have muscles in your forearms, and it's all about strengthening that. You have muscles in your hand, strengthening the hand, but you can't really strengthen your fingers. So it's just everything you strengthen is in your hand and in your forearm. You develop calluses on your fingertips, which help. But and I thought that was really cool that he said that, and I was, it made me thinking about doing this because he says that you get more range of motion doing that with the muscles. You're actually closing because somebody asked, why do you play on top? And he said, well, you have more of a range of motion. And I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I was working just kind of with and I liked it, but it just didn't sound as full to me. So I just started kind of messing around doing. I was like, oh man, that sounds really full. I was like, but I'm not doing anything with his hand.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta add something more. I gotta, it's.
And that's where you throw in the bass hit. You hit the tom and the
Yeah, and basically I just use a bass and like a snare for this, and I just pop it. And it's weird because I notice my style, what's comfortable to me. Most guys when they hit a guitar, they do this, and they use a lot of their hand. And for me, I kind of just swipe up.
Right.
So when I'm doing it, I notice that it's kind of weird, but it's just comfortable to me.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of working on that because I'm not a tapper, but you can hear the harmonics when you hit. And so what you're trying to do is basically you're creating the bass note as a breakdown, drum, and then hitting the harmonic just to accentuate. And so I've got to work on that, just get my technique down. Like I said, this is all kind of last night stuff. So
no.
And then, but yeah, it all derived from this tuning that he showed me, and just wanting to kind of broaden my horizons with the percussive stuff. And you'll hear it too, like in the song. It's, so you hear that, and it's kind of, that's a percussive thing too, but most guys that don't even play percussive style still do that a lot. That helps keep your timing, and it just adds a little more depth to it, which is really cool. So yeah, that's just something new I'm working on. I want to hopefully have it done by a week from now if I find the time to get everything done, but it's just really cool because it's not anything like I've ever written, ever. And it's my first real big attempt at percussive stuff, so maybe it's kind of elementary right now and just hitting a tom and snare, but at least it's outside the norm and it's adding something more than just
right.
So it actually sounds more full, and
right.
And I started doing it. I was just using the bass.